mic check, please.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ducks Unlimited podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Brazier.
I'm your host, Katie Burke.
I'm your host, Dr. Jared Henson. And I'm your host, Matt Harrison.
Welcome to the Ducks Unlimited podcast, Halloween edition. Featuring the hosts of Expanded Perspectives podcast and sponsored by Purina Pro Plan and Bird Dog Whiskey. Enjoy.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ducks Unlimited podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harrison, and we have a whole crew of folks in here today in the studio. We got Kayleigh, Kyle, Cam, and Clay, and then Matt. I completely messed it up there. And
You have
Matt.
to change the drop in your voice when you say, and Matt.
And Matt. I mean, yeah. So we've got
So it begins.
a ton of stories that we're going to talk about. We're just going to have a good time. Tomorrow is, what's tomorrow?
Tomorrow's Halloween.
Tomorrow is Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Dia de los Muertos.
If you like candy corn and circus peanuts, turn this thing off. People don't eat those.
Can't do it. Can't
It's the
do it.
worst candy.
Yeah.
I like candy corn.
You would.
You like candy corn?
Yeah.
Says a lot about him.
By itself or like with peanuts?
Just by itself.
You like circus peanuts too?
No,
Good.
I prefer the real thing.
But Peeps.
Peeps, the marshmallows?
Yeah.
No, I can't
Don't
stand
eat
those.
those.
But my brother, his
Here we
name
go.
is Matt. He loves
Okay.
those things.
Captain Matt, because he's a
Captain
firefighter.
Matt.
Well, this is Mr. Matt.
And I'm a firefighter.
Yeah.
No, Miss
Volunteer.
Volunteer.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm kidding.
Kayleigh.
We appreciate your service.
I'm going to put that shade on you
we
real quick.
appreciate your
See
service.
this right there. Yeah, keep that shade right
Salty.
there.
Man,
Yeah, that's
okay.
all right.
No, that's
all right.
amazing.
She's still mad because you made her clean up her space.
Look how clean it is over here.
Well, Kyle and Cam, thank y'all so much for making the trip out.
Yeah.
Man, thank you. We're stoked.
thanks
we've
for
done
having
it
us.
before, but it's always been remotely. So to actually be here in your amazing studio is pretty cool.
We're super excited about it.
Yeah,
I think-
this is y'all's third year to do this with us.
Yes.
And Matt forgot to introduce that y'all are from the hosts of the Expanded Perspectives podcast,
Yep.
which has been around. You guys are one of the OGs as far as paranormal podcasts go.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that.
Yeah, we've been around a long time. We started the thing like in 2012.
Mhm.
So, and it's just turned into a lifelong passion. We never thought it would be going this long, to be honest. When we first tried it out, we were like, if we could get 300 people to listen and we could get, do it for a year, it'd be fun. This was early in the game. You didn't know. There wasn't Roadcaster Pros and all these YouTube videos and books telling you how to do it. We had to slowly assemble it. I remember going to like music stores and trying to tell them what we were doing, and we'd have to say internet radio.
Yep.
Because nobody knew what a podcast was.
Right,
Well, now
no
everybody
clue.
has a podcast. I mean, my landscaper has a podcast. And
Ooh.
we
We've got a landscaper. And
Yeah.
he's got a podcast.
and just to assemble the equipment was difficult. We didn't know what we were doing, but we were able to do it. And I remember when we first got it all done and we recorded the first episode, we were shocked because we were like, is it really going to sound like that?
At his kitchen
Because we had
table.
no idea how to edit anything.
We still
And
don't.
we got lucky because we put out like 2 episodes and then we got invited on a show. And within a month, we already had like 3,000 subscribers.
That's awesome.
So it just took off. But I will say there was a lot less podcasts to choose from. So,
Oh, yeah.
now,
Yeah, yeah.
so
it's
the
definitely
landscape
got
has changed.
saturated. But you can't, I mean, what I've noticed about podcasts is it's not even a lot of competition against each other. It's like if somebody wants to hear this content, and I'm a big, fan of paranormal content, I'm going to soak up as much as I can because as soon as you guys release an episode, I'm listening to it. And then I'm like, well, shoot, I got to wait another week for the next one. Then I got to find another podcast to listen to, right?
Right.
And so then you build up kind of a catalog of
Yeah.
podcasts that
Yeah.
you subscribe
That's
to.
exactly
And that's
what I
why
do.
it's so good to work together. Is because you work with your buddies and you introduce them to all your listeners and
Yeah.
they introduce you to their listeners. Next thing you know, people have got 5 or 6 they can go to. You don't miss a day.
Right.
Just bounce through it that way. Makes
Yes.
it nice.
So the first year you guys were on, our host Mike Brazier, who's still a host of the podcast, his wife started listening to Expanded Perspectives. Now she's hooked. She does not listen to the Ducks Unlimited podcast, which her husband hosts. So,
Got her.
Yeah, got her.
It goes the same. My wife doesn't listen to my show at all. Never. I mean, I can list what I bought everybody for Christmas and no one would find out because they don't pay attention. And I actually like it that way because I think it'd be weird if every time I got done, then she wanted to talk to me about it. It's like two separate worlds.
Yep.
Give you feedback.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah, exactly.
no, thank you.
I forced my wife to listen to one episode when we first started,
She
and that
hated
was it. Yeah, she's like, nah, I hear you enough.
Right. She hears them enough. Exactly.
I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. We are not researchers. We're not cryptozoologists. We don't claim to be. All we are storytellers. We're lifelong pals. We grew up, I've known him since middle school. We were raised in a small town west of Dallas-Fort Worth. Population back then was probably like 12, 13,000. And my family is from New Jersey. I was born in Texas, but my family's from New Jersey. And up there, their hunting is way different. Where we live in Texas, it's almost all private land. You lease land from owners. Up there, it's public. So there's no rifle hunting allowed. You're either hunting with a bow and arrow, shotgun. I think now they have muzzle loading and stuff, but not high-powered rifles. Well, where we're at, everybody hunts with high-powered rifles. My dad taught me in archery because of where he came from, and this was the only guy I knew at school who was into archery back then. Everybody just rifle hunted. So we started hanging out together, started hunting together, and grew up together, and we both had a love of the paranormal. Probably because if you spend time in the woods, you're just interested in that. I don't know if my uncles and my dad would tell us scary stuff to try to mess with us, before they drop you off in the stand and it's about to get, it's still dark out to mess with us. But whatever it was, it sparked our interest. And back then you'd have to go to the public library to find something on Bigfoot or anything. Old television shows like Unsolved Mysteries, In Search of with Leonard Nimoy, when those would come on, I'd always be really excited when they got to like cryptid sightings or Bigfoot sightings. I'd always wonder, all the time I'm in the woods, I hear strange stuff. What is that? It's probably just a fox, but you creep yourself out. And then after a while, like after high school and stuff, we all got jobs, we got our families going, and we started listening to podcasts back in like 2009. And I work in my car all day by myself. He does the same thing. He worked in his car all day by himself. So you listen to normal radio, it's the same songs on loop. And I was bored. And he was like, do you know what a podcast is? I was like, I have no idea. And back then, the iPod, you had to put on, it looked like a Bic lighter. It didn't even have a screen. So you'd have to go to iTunes, manually find the thing, download it to it. And back then, there was only a handful of shows.
And it would only hold so many.
Yeah.
Right. So we would both download the episodes like two kids, giddy, and we'd go listen to them. Then we'd call each other and talk about, man, did you hear that story? Or, man, what do you think about that?
I got to get that book.
We did that for about 2 or 3 years. And then one night, we're sitting around a bonfire with a couple of cold ones. And we're like, man, I wonder if we could do that. We're like, we don't even know how to do that.
That's always when the best ideas happen.
Right.
Around the campfire with some cold ones, and you're like, we could do
Well, there's
that.
also a lot of bad decisions, but yeah, there's good ones every once in a while. And so over the next year, we assembled what we would need. I remember buying like an old soundboard off of eBay. We bought a microphone from some pawn shop. Anyways, we assembled the stuff, started it, figured out how to release. I remember when we first did it, you had to submit your podcast to iTunes to get approval before they would put it on. Now, back then, I thought that was an amazing accomplishment. I didn't realize that they accept pretty much anybody. But when we got there, like, man, this is wild.
Yeah.
And then we started. And as soon as we started sharing stories, other people felt compelled to send in their stories. And it has just grown like a bonfire, wild bonfire, because that's all we do is just relay stories. And then, people have these strange things. And what I've realized is a lot of people have paranormal experiences that you wouldn't even think, and especially hunters, because they're in the woods. And it's just grown, and it's crazy.
Well, you being from Jersey, that immediately there's like lore all around the country that's like different, and people believe different, like
the Jersey
where they're
Devil.
from. I was about to ask you, like, is that like the Jersey Devil a big thing? Like, are people just like really spooked, like believe in it for sure, like up there? Because obviously down here we're like,
I have
don't
an
know what it is.
Uncle Jack, and he's convinced that he either saw it or heard it and is terrified of it, I guess. And he would tell me that as a kid, the Pine Barrens, and there's lots of sightings. You can go on there, and even to this day, people claim they see things. But everything they see that looks weird or bizarre, they blame for the Jersey Devil. But It's an interesting story. And now where we're at in Texas, people report a lot of like chupacabra sightings, which I think it's just mangy coyotes they're seeing. But
Yeah.
The
I was about
goat
to say-
sucker.
they call in. Yeah.
I was about to say I did want to play a game. I don't know at what point, but like mythical creatures or like lore that's like yay or nay, like believe in like the
Yeah, like-
chupacabra.
The chupacabra. Yeah.
Yes,
Well, because
no.
it's changed so much from the original reports. Because it had wings and fangs, and it looked more
Doesn't
like
it
a tiny
it kills your
gargoyle.
livestock?
Yeah, it drains
Yeah.
blood from the goat sucker.
Just the goat.
Yeah, and then as it's made its way up into Texas, they become what most people will refer to as blue dogs. So they're a discolored skin, but they're almost like a completely hairless or mangy coyote. But they are built funny. A little higher in the back end, a little lower in the front end. You see those things running around out there, and so people will say like, what? And it does look like some sort of hybrid, whatever it is. But yeah, it's nothing the same as what was originally named a chupacabra.
So one of the things I think is interesting about your podcast and other podcasts that are similar is that, like you said, so many people have these sightings and so many people have these experiences, but they don't tell anybody.
Absolutely.
Because they don't feel safe. People think they're crazy or whatever. That's what they're worried about. And so your podcast gives people a safe space to tell
That's
these
exactly
stories because they hear other people tell a similar story and they're like, I'm not crazy. This person had that same experience and it was 20 miles away from where I had my experience. So I'm going to tell this story too. And then you start building a compendium of all these stories. And you're like, okay, maybe there's something to this.
That's exactly right. That's exactly the way it's gone down. Is there are times where somebody will report a crazy, outlandish sighting, and then you'll get 6 emails where people are like, man, I thought I was the only one. I thought I was completely insane, but I saw the same thing.
I'll give you a perfect example that it happened. I've never seen anything. Like, I'm just one of those just oblivious to the world around, I suppose, and just bumble through it.
Because he's dumb.
Because I'm dumb. Yeah, it's okay. I'm grown. I can accept that. I was out to eat with my daughter and my son, and this before my granddaughter. My wife was out of town, so it was just all of the small group of the family. And my daughter we're sitting outside on this patio at this restaurant. My daughter goes, Dad, what is that? I look up, there's a big flagpole. It's right in the middle of our town. There's a big flagpole that's at the bank next to this restaurant. And it is what looks like, if you've seen the tarps like for camping, like just a real lightweight tarps that you can pitch. It looks like that material, like an OD green or dark black material of that lightweight ripstop nylon fabric they make those tarps out of. Except it's 45, 50 foot in the air above this flagpole, and it's moving against the wind. So it's kind of floating and oscillating, moving around like
a kite.
Like a kite or like one of those Mylar balloons, except it's about half as big as the side of this studio wall.
So it's pretty big.
It's just large, and it's hanging there. And my daughter's like, what is that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? So I get to looking at it. Both of us watch it. It goes against the wind all the way into town, like as it makes its way in there. And then you lose it anymore. And I'm sitting there at that time thinking, what? And this only happened probably 6 years ago, I guess. Probably about 6 years ago. And I can't wrap my head around it. I'm like, what was that? Well, did I see something just then? I tell the story on the show. It's not 2 weeks later, we get an email from a woman who lives not far from our hometown, whose son saw something like that about 1.5 miles from there 6 months before this. He was on his motorcycle, pulled over on the side. This is at night, and saw this thing like moving across do the same thing, moving basically the same direction we saw it 1.5 miles from where we saw it. But just like that, he had never told anybody but his mother, and his mother's like, I can't wait to let him know that he's not crazy. Like other people have seen something like this.
The real question is did y'all give it a name?
No.
Not
I
like
guess
the tarp monster or something?
Well, we have given something a name that we call, so dwindies are like gnomes, right? So they call it the trash bag dwindies because we've had a lot of stories. Yeah, get a load of this. Yeah. We started having stories come in of people seeing what looked like small black trash bags, like anybody would leave if you were to go get it, like at a convenience store or anything like that, just a little carry-on bag, blow across the road, either in front of them, behind them, as wind's blowing it. And as it enters the road, it will morph either into or out of the bag and turn into like a cat, They've seen where they'd seen them turn into a cat and a black cat run off. People would stop, be like, I don't know what that was. They've seen animals move and morph into these bags and just blow. We got a story, it's not probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. A guy back in 2015, he and his lady friend, I think it's his fiance at the time, or now rather, she went to college, I think at the University of Nebraska is where he was at in that area. He said that he would go for a run late in the evenings, I guess after they got done with school, whatever. He was out for a run and stops. He said he stops and he's like at a T crossroad where the streets are going by in front of him. He said, there's nobody out. He sees a truck come. He said, this truck's coming, and he notices something behind it, like it's pulling something. He said what he at first thought was it looked like it was pulling one of those parachutes like people put on to run with now. Yeah. It looked like the truck was pulling this parachute. He said the truck, as it slows and the brake lights come on, you could see it reflect on this thing. He said the truck turns, and this thing still morphing like this doesn't follow the truck, just makes its way all the way down the road out of sight. And he said it was 3 foot off the ground, big as a large contractor-grade trash bag, and it just morphed and changed shapes and rolled on itself all the way down. Now, I could understand you drive by any piece of plastic or trash and the wind pick it up and move it. Nothing is going to do that. Nothing does that unless there's some sort of something behind it. But we get just like that, something crazy of just trash bag stuff that changes. So just there's little things going on around you at all times.
Yeah, and the duendes is like fae folk, and it's mostly like South American, Central America that they call them duendes, but they're seen all over the world. You know, if you go to Scandinavia, Sweden, and stuff like that, they build their road systems around not messing with trolls or fae. And South Americans think of it as like a harbinger for something, a harbinger for something bad to happen. So there's been stories relayed to us where these guys were working, and all of a sudden, these Brazilians come running down the hill, and they quit the job that day because they thought that they saw a duende. Or you get these reports of people working or hunting, and they see what they thought was a raccoon. It's not a raccoon. It's this little. It's a little duende wearing like a pelt as a coat.
Yeah, we've got reports from New Mexico. We've got reports from South Texas of people seeing these duende like.
I can't even take a duende serious.
That's like the maybe not the same thing, but the fairies, how they say, like, you know, if there's a circle of mushrooms, that the fairies,
the fairy circles,
that they. But even if I see that in my yard, I just go kick it. I'm like, we're not doing black magic in this yard.
I don't need them here.
Not up in here.
Get away from me, Satan.
Yeah, but that's what they say, that they do whatever they do in the mushroom circle.
Yeah,
and they will. We've had stories too, talking about like even kicking the circles, where people have moved into places, had strange, unusual things and very bad feelings, and go and build a fairy circle and make little offerings, and everything smooth out. So, I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, you don't know unless I guess you could catch one and hold it, but I mean,
shake it.
Yeah, but it's like you were talking about. We would put out these stories, and then we might get 10 right after that of, I can't believe somebody saw what I saw. Yeah.
Like that contractor that was building that little house, remember, and stuff was going missing?
Yeah.
That
in
was
South Texas.
After we told a duende story, we got this really cool
He was
email.
rebuilding a home. I say building an older home, like remodeling a home, had all of their tools in 5-gallon buckets, right? So they would just set them in there on the slab and leave for the day and come back later. And this is out in the middle of nowhere in South Texas, and it's just mesquite flats, rolling brush. There's not really anything fancy about it. He said he comes in early, you know, it's going to be hot, so they're getting there early one morning, and he notices tools are strewn about, so instantly he thinks it's raccoons. Yeah. And then he's like, but why are the raccoons getting my tools? Like, there's no food in there. They don't need any of that.
Raccoons got to work too,
right?
man.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
They got little hands. They could swing a hammer. Like, you could get them to do something helpful. I mean, as much as they tear apart, you think they could wire a house. But so he's
Grab
looking
that
around.
coat, boy.
Yeah. Oh, easy, right? Like, they could operate pliers. I know it.
Yeah,
I just know
absolutely.
it. And so he's looking around. He said his chalk line is like strung out of the deal. So the box is there, the line's strung out. He said tools are missing. He goes to looking around out like where they would have come, because they haven't put windows in the house yet. It's not dried in completely. So they're looking around out there, and he sees something moving in the brush, and it's not even real brush. And that's what he describes is almost like
3 foot.
3 foot tall, like brownies.
Duende.
Yeah, except there's like 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
And they're moving around out there, juking around before they run on off in the brush.
Are they doing this stuff like for fun? Are they like mischievous, or is it
It
like
kind
to
of
be
seems like, yeah, it seems
Okay.
like the whole
It's
thing is
no,
done
like,
just for fun.
not harm,
Got
but
your
like
tools.
the
Yeah, right?
mean-hearted, I guess.
Yeah.
Are they more like trying to be funny,
Yeah.
play with you?
And it goes back into the whole idea of the Fae. The Fae are always mischievous little problem makers.
Pranksters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the movie The Gremlins is based off of like fairy stories and duende stories. Where there actually were gremlins seen in World War II, but we can get to that another time. But the guy that was working at the country that saw the duendes, he even said that one of them had like a necklace and some like sockets. And
Like
it
you
was
could
like,
tell that like they had been around.
Yeah.
like it took his sockets.
Well, and see, that's
and
the same
put it
And
on
made
his-
jewelry out of it.
Yeah.
When I talked about the little hunters, the dude that told me
Where's
the
my
story about the
sockets?
little
Yeah.
hunters.
10 millimeter, right?
Same thing. Well, that's it, 100%. You know it's a 10 millimeter.
Every time that's one's missing, it's the duende.
The dad walks in. Boy, would you get my socket
I know
set?
you've been in the
Dad hit with
sockets.
the Duende.
Yeah, came in there and took the 10
Dude,
millimeter.
if I'd have known about that, I'd have blamed stuff on duendes all the time as a kid.
Dad,
I'm gonna start
telling
doing
you
it
it's a Duende.
Well, it's
Yeah.
funny. There's a guy here at work, a buddy here at work that y'all know, and he goes moose hunting in Alaska every year with another guy, just two of them, and they're both employees here. And he doesn't believe in Bigfoot. He doesn't believe in ghosts. But he does believe in the little people of Alaska, because there's such reverence there
Yeah.
by the people that live there for these little people. And he said he's had experiences where he's been out in the middle of nowhere with this friend of his, and things will go missing. Where, like, we didn't take them anywhere. Where did they go? And then they'll be traveling. Maybe they'll hike another half mile or something, and there they are.
Yeah.
They run into them.
I can back that up. I have a good friend of mine that's been a professional fly fishing guide for over 30 years, all through Patagonia. He up in Alaska, multiple years up there. He's got the exact same stories. He said he was talking to the locals, and they all talk about Bigfoot like it's just a thing. Like you talk about moose and bear. They're like, yeah, it's over on that other side. Leave it alone. But he said that they would put in and take the float boats and go down and fly fishing, and they may be on the water just camping it and working their way down for 7 to 10 days. He goes, you'll be in the middle of nowhere, and there'll be little stick homes built back up these fingers off these creeks that are just kind of like up in the brush, and you get to looking and you're like, that looks like a little house. And he said the same thing. He goes, we will set up camp. Things will go missing that night. And they had told him, he said, when I first started doing that, the locals had told him that work there was like, you need to leave things out just for them. And he's like, dude, this is ridiculous. He said, after that would happen, it would be the same thing as he said, we would have things go missing. And then we might find it 2 or 3 miles further down the river. You might stop in a place, and then there it is. And you were like, bro, I had this last night. It's gone this morning. Now I found it this evening down here. He said, I got to the point to where I would intentionally leave things out, be it little things of sugar, little things of alcohol,
Yes,
poured
tobacco,
in a little
they
cup,
like-
anything like that. He goes, things would quit going missing when you would just play that little game with them.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that they will tell you lots of cultures believe. For whatever reason, if you leave them a little bit of liquor, leave them a little bit of tobacco, like you'll quit having problems around your place.
Now, you could go so far as to say it was
They like to
corvids.
party.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
just need a vice.
Yeah, that it could have been a corvid. It could have been a crow coming by and stealing something shiny, things like that. But they're not going to take it downriver and then leave it for you to find later.
And like you mentioned up in Alaska, like the Inuit people, there's a deep tradition. They believe in it. If you go to Arizona and you go to like a reservation and ask them, they're like, yeah, it's a thing.
The little people in the woods.
Skinwalkers, little people,
That's
that's what they believe in.
Yeah, that's their
We
life.
dismiss it, because that's what our society does. It's like, oh, those are just folklore.
I dismiss it because I like to walk around in the woods in the night, in the dark, and I like to pretend nothing's out there like that.
Can't think about the skinwalkers at night when you're by yourself.
When you're trying to climb down out of your stand and all you've got's a stupid bow, and you're like, yeah, this is a great idea.
I'd like to see a duende personally.
Duende.
If I had to pick one, that's what it would be. I don't want to see some 8-foot-tall monster in the woods.
Yeah, but we get all kinds of sightings, and I would say the most popular one is probably Bigfoot. That's probably but then that's the number one cryptid known to everybody.
Yep. He's the
And-
gateway cryptid.
do we,
He's
do we
100%.
believe yes or no?
So for
I'm a
me,
believer. I'm going out on a limb. I'm going to say I believe.
I'm going to say yes too. And I like to think that they just are on their own. They don't want to bother anybody.
right? There's
Try
two,
not to be seen.
there's two camps. There's like the tree hugging hippie Sasquatch, and then there's the evil rock throwing boulder hippie.
I'm on the hippie side.
I
Me
love
too.
the hippie Sasquatch idea
I'm on the
I
woo
love it.
side.
Yeah. So
of it not being flesh and blood.
Or something.
See, that's where we start.
Interdimensional.
Well, that's where you start dividing. Do you
Yeah.
believe in Bigfoot? Yes or no? Okay. Well, then do you believe
Right.
it's a physical creature? Or is this something else? Is it some sort of manifestation of some sort of dark energy? of some sort of good. Like, what is it?
Right.
Yeah, what I always say on the show is it depends on what day you ask me. What I mean is there are days where I'm like, man, it's got to be real. And then there's other days where I'm like, there's no way it's real. How come they don't ever find any bones? Where's the bodies? Where's the proof? But what I will say is over the hundreds of sightings that we've received and the other hundreds that I've read, there's a lot of similarities. And it's weird that it's seen all over. There's not just Sasquatch, there's not just Bigfoot. If you go to Australia, they have the Yowie. If you go to, China, they have the Urin. If you go to Russia, they have the Almasti. It's all described as the same thing, though. Mm-hmm. And so why are people seeing that? I don't know. I don't have an answer.
And they see them in places that have never had primates. Like you're talking about seeing the Yowie in Australia. There's no primates in Australia, but yet they see this thing.
And it's seen in places where it wouldn't hold an animal that size. You'd think if there's a 7-foot-tall bipedal creature walking around, it's got to have a lot of protein.
Right.
But yet they're seen in the deserts.
Yeah.
They're seen all over.
Yeah.
See, I'm on the opposite side than y'all too. I don't think so.
Well,
It's safe.
unfortunate.
It's safe. It's
What
safe
do you
to say
believe
that,
in?
right?
Gotta
It
believe
Makes
in
you feel
something.
better. You can sleep at night.
Yeah, and see, I'm in the woods all the time. So I mean, I'm going to tell myself.
Keep telling
he's-
yourself that too,
he's-
because I do.
Yep.
He's not
I'm
out
like, it's
there.
not real. And if he's real, he's not.
Because, like
here.
you said, I mean, I feel like we would have some type of
Something.
evidence. There would be something out there, and we've all seen the videos where there's some massive creature that just kind of slips in and out of the background. Like we've all seen that, but like,
So what is it? Right. That's the way I'm saying. That's
Show
what I'm
me,
saying.
show me the legit.
Well, and
Sasquatch,
then you
not
get
the Jack
stories
Link
of where guys
Sasquatch.
claim they shot it,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
get all this, and you're like, come on, man.
Got to do better than that.
Or there's people
Exactly.
that say that they
There's a
befriend
caliber
them.
out there that'll knock it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I shot it with my pellet gun.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You're like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah, there's claims that people befriend them and they have a gifting tree and they live amongst them, but
Send some
they
Christmas
never,
cards.
They never have photographs of it. It's like
Share a
convenient.
bag of beef jerky
And-
with each other. And
And just,
They like Jack Links.
They do.
I've listened to a lot of
do like it.
Bigfoot episodes, Sasquatch episodes, and it seems like even geographically they're a little different. So that the Bigfoot in Texas are supposed to be a little meaner,
Right.
and the Pacific Northwest ones, the ones in like Washington area,
Hippies.
yeah, are more the hippies.
Right. You go down to Florida, the skunk ape. Those
Yeah.
are wild. Those
Who?
are what? Those
They're
are wild.
smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just like you get to East Texas, they've got 3 toes
Mm-hmm.
as compared to full-size tracks. There's a bunch
Yeah.
of weird stuff.
Yeah.
Kinda
So
like
there's
Clay's-
differentiations between them. my 3 toes.
And I don't
Don't
think
be cutesy pew about this.
My 3 it sounds like a good TV series. My 3 toes.
and I don't think, obviously there are people making up their sightings. And we
Oh,
get
yeah.
those stories too, and you're like, obviously this is made up. But then there
Yeah.
are people that are genuine. And I don't think that they're lying. Even if what they saw wasn't a Sasquatch, it could be simple misidentification. I mean, how many people, if you're not in the woods all the time, are you familiar with what a black bear looks like? Are you aware of the different color
Yeah.
phases that they come in?
Yeah.
So it could be just some
That
city
they do
slicker.
walk on their hind legs naturally.
Yeah.
Could be somebody from the city that has a strange sighting and they think it's Bigfoot, and it wasn't. But they're not lying; they thought it was.
Yeah.
And whether you really physically saw Sasquatch or you believe you did, the effect on you is the same. Your
Yeah.
psyche is changed.
Yeah, I think about Cam's buddy that he told this story a couple of years ago that just he ended up having an experience. Guy who had spent his life in the woods
Yeah.
had that experience and sold his bass boat, sold everything else. He was done, didn't go back. And you think if you run into a mountain lion, right, that's scary. If you run into a grizzly or something like that, that's scary too. But that doesn't keep you out of the woods.
It's
for
not
the rest of your life.
life-changing.
Right.
What was it that he thought he saw?
Yeah, tell them.
So I used to hunt with a fella, and it was during spring turkey season, and we, get out there. It's late in the evenings. This whole thing. That dude comes tearing back into the camp on his 4-wheeler, and just starts loading stuff into his truck.
We gotta get
And
out of
we're
here.
all like, dude, we all just got down here. Like, you've been down here one day. Like, where are you going? He starts loading, and he won't talk to anybody. We all go to talking to him, and he finally tells us that he witnessed something in his stand. He was hunting pigs and all this stuff. He witnessed something in his stand walking. He said at first he thought it was a cow, just cattle pushing through cedar breaks. Because then he realized that it's above the cedar trees. And what he described was a large, hairy, ape-looking thing with cedar trees hitting him under the armpits as he's pushing his way through. He said he saw it move for a little bit. It went off a a little roll off of a ridge down into a bottom, and he saw it again pop back up as it made its way all the way to the creek. He said, I'm watching it this whole time as it's moving down through there. And he said, it's moving like a giant man pushing its way through. When it gets out of sight, he gets down, got on there, and left. He left that night. He never came back for his things, and he proceeded within the year to sell all of his fishing gear, all of his hunting gear, and he never went back in the woods again. He died 7 years later of cancer, and that man swore to it until the day he died. He never went in the woods. He never let his family go, none of that stuff. And he died still saying the exact same thing. And he had been a hunter and a fisherman his whole life.
Did he call it Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Or just, okay.
What do you, I can't even imagine like putting yourself in that situation.
Being changed like that?
Or like looking at him saying like, please don't say me. Please don't say me. Please don't say me. Like,
yeah.
I can't even imagine.
A man that I did some work with that it was actually a contractor for the state. Him and I did some work together. He's from East Texas. He had a friend, and I've told this story too. He had a buddy that had gone bass fishing out there with this guy, with him and his dad had gone bass fishing. They're in the wee hours of the morning. It's right as the sun's coming up. They're making their way around. He said, we got the trolling motor in. He said, I'm at the back of the boat. Dad's at the front of the boat. And we're just cruising around with these reeds and all this, just pitching and flipping up into it. He said at one point, Dad goes, what's that? 20 foot from the boat, 30 foot from the boat, he said he sees something dark crouched over. They thought it was a pig at first, right by the edge of the water. He said this thing looks up at him, stands up. They're 30 foot from it at this point. Stands up, turns, takes 2 steps, and is behind a tree. And then leans out from behind the tree and starts looking at him. And they are both looking right at it. And they said this thing looked like a jet black, dirty, giant monkey man that stood up from the water's edge and walked in. They popped the motor back up, turned around. He said they fished as they went away around there, and then they just left. He's like, and now they didn't quit fishing. I mean, of course, they just got out of that area. And this, when he's telling me, my buddy Daryl's telling me this about his friend, he goes, this dude is like the driest, no-nonsense guy. And what's funny is you always have those guys that will talk about their friends is like, yeah, that guy's the serious, no-nonsense guy. Yet he just had this experience that completely shook everything that he thought was real. You get the same reports when people see things in the air, UAPs, UFOs, when they see this, is it changes them because it took everything that you think you know. I mean, imagine all of us in this room right now, and you just had an encounter or a sighting that shook you to your very soul of everything of your reality. What you thought was real.
You're forever changed now.
Look at The Matrix. Like that movie, the way he's acting is like, I can't that's what happens to these people. And some it doesn't affect. Some of them find the hippie Bigfoot and they're like, I know it. I'm not surprised. Others see it and you're like,
I'm done.
Yeah. I'm never going out there again.
I call him a hippie now because I don't frequent the woods often by myself. And I've never seen one. So in my mind,
hippie Bigfoot makes sense.
That's how I like it. But if I had the experience that your friend had,
You're done.
I'd probably peace out.
2017, there was a young man duck hunting himself in Oklahoma on public land. And he reported seeing in there, he said he got out there that morning, got all of the decoys set up, got everything ready to go, sitting there in the quiet, decides, you know what? I think I'm going to just catch a little nap before everything kicks off. Eyes closed. I do it all the time. It's the best sleep you get, right? It's the best sleep you get. You just wake up, don't look up. He said he's sitting there and he hears something. And he said, we always laugh about it with like deer. You can hear if it's like in its cadence or its stride.
Yeah.
You can
if it's
hear the way it
crawling or
walks.
walking.
Yeah, exactly. He said, man, it sounds like somebody walking. It gets over into the reeds back over in this area, and he said, I'm looking around. He finally gets his flashlight up and shines his flashlight, and he sees eyes looking right at him about 5 foot off the ground. He said, I don't think anything of it. He's like, oh, it's a deer. Without him thinking 5 foot off the ground. Right? Like, bro, they're not.
That's a moose.
Yeah, right. Like, you got an elk out there. So he's shining light. He goes, I don't think anything of it. But he starts getting this sense of dread. He said, just heavy weight of a sense of dread starts weighing on him.
And the Oz effects start to kick in.
Where there's silence. There's no sound of animals. There's no sound of bugs. There's no sound of anything but him looking at those eyes. He said, so finally he's just geeked out. He's like, I got to get out of here. So as he starts easing back, these eyes start circling the lake or the pond towards his side.
So he's being hunted now.
So this thing now
Yeah, or at
realizes,
least
you shine the light on me, I'm going to come hang out. So this thing starts moving. He says he keeps his eyes on it for a good bit as it makes its way till he can't see those eyes anymore. He said, I'm gone. He came back later when it was good and daylight
to get his
said
decoy.
to get his decoys, look around. He said he was trying to find tracks, he was like, what was that? Could find no tracks, could find no anything. Just these eyes had moved around in there.
And it didn't stop that guy from hunting. He kept on going.
Yeah.
But when a guy has an effect where he gives up his passion, it's like, do you think that guy's trolling? Do you think he's making that up?
But what would it take for you to stop?
Whatever he saw, it changed.
Right? Think about what it would take for you to stop doing this.
I think it would have to be something that made me fear for my life.
And
like,
that's
you know what
that
I mean? Like,
reality
not so
shaking
much,
thing.
Yeah.
Maybe like if you've ever been in the woods at night or early morning before the sun comes up, we've all been creeped out a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
If you sit here and say, "Oh man, I never," don't lie. Don't lie. You've
Try
heard a
reading 3 or
limb
4 of those
snap.
stories before you go hunt.
You've heard a limb snap. Yeah, you've heard a limb snap or something. You're like, what's that?
Oh,
You know?
absolutely.
But that's never kept me from going, you know. But I think what would truly keep me from like, I'm not doing it anymore is like if I truly feared my life, like, okay, something's after me. And thankfully, I've never had that type of experience. And I hope I never do because I love what I do. But, you know, just being kind of spooked out a little bit, you know, because I mean, I can't tell you how many times you'll be walking through the woods and an owl get off a branch right above you and just like, and you're just
busting birds.
Yeah,
like, just
like,
and
stuff. I mean, or jump a deer. Jump, like that. You want to talk about get that heart
just
racing.
a rabbit.
Or
you're trying to be quiet, going through the woods, and boom, a rabbit busts out of there. You wet your pants, and you got to go back and change before you go. You're like, great.
Yeah,
great.
And that's the thing is like most of the sightings that we receive or read about, it's not a hostile thing. Most of it's they saw something strange.
Yeah.
They don't know what it was.
An eerie, just kind of like.
It was eerie, and it kind of wandered off, and they never saw it again.
Yeah.
But they're always wondering, like, what was that? And the Oz effect, that's a common thing during sightings where it goes completely quiet. There's even like time dilation occurs sometimes during the sighting. It's almost like time stood still, like you were talking about. Something interdimensional bled through because we know that the multiverse is a real thing. And then it went back. No, we don't really know.
Yeah.
But that would explain a lot of reasons why there's no physical evidence. But yet we find physical footprints, but there's never any hair. There's never any bone. You're not like out there
just
looking
enough
for
to keep you
sheds and you
looking.
find across, you know, a giant
Might be some scat.
jawbone. Could be.
There's Bigfoot scat. I think we should issue a challenge to our listeners that they should listen to an episode of Expanded Perspectives podcast
And give us
right
their-
on their way to the duck blind or the deer stand.
Do it.
See what happens. See if you don't get spooked out while you're walking out.
Well, the problem is all this rattles around in our heads. So this is all the stuff I think about while I'm sitting in the stand.
Right.
And it's total quiet. And I'm like, well, I probably should have brought a book because this isn't going so well.
Yeah.
I got to get down and walk out of here.
And then they always ask us if we would like Bigfoot to be discovered, and I say no because then it's the mystery that keeps it fun, right?
I don't want to know
Once
if
it's
it's real or not.
discovered, if it's discovered, the mystery's over.
Yeah.
I like to picture in my mind too that there's somebody out there that truly does interact with them, like you see in these movies and all the stuff that they make, and they just don't say anything about it. They're like, yeah, we're just going to leave this alone.
Yep.
I hope it's like Harry and the Hendersons, like where it's like he's just looking for a friend. He's going around trying to make a friend, and everybody just keeps running.
That's the kind of Bigfoot
These
I
two
want.
are too young for that, but I got you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was a great. movie.
Okay, yeah. And I like we've even had stories of this person found this spot, and he joined a small group of Bigfoot researchers, like 5 or 6 people, and they would go to the spot and they would make tree knocks. And they would get tree knocks back. And they're like, holy cow, we're communicating. Yeah. And they went back 3 or 4 times. They went and got cameras. They got thermal scopes. And they're out there beating. Turns out it was another group of Bigfoot researchers knocking back to them. So
like
these
elk
groups of
calling to
people
one another.
are knocking back and forth. And they're both thinking that they're communicating.
Speaking of that, have y'all talked to Nathan?
I was about to say-
Nathan
I was about
Ratchford
to say
is an
Zach.
employee of Ducks Unlimited, one of my really good friends, loves to hunt. But him and his fiance just went on this getaway out in
Colorado?
No, it was a trip previous to that, but they were literally out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, yeah, they were in the Carolinas.
That's right. Out in the mountains somewhere. Yeah. Like it was literally a getaway cabin where you had to like hike in a mile, no service, no electricity, none of that, right?
Zero fun.
But he wanted to do it with him and his fiance.
Sounds like fun to me.
And he literally told me, like, this is no joke. He literally told me that I think it was one morning or evening. I can't remember. It was one of the two. And he was out on the porch, and I think it had just got through like mist and rain. And, just kind of the mood that you would.
It's perfect.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
And he said he was sitting there, and I think they were up on kind of, the peak. And he said that there was this noise being made. It was a knocking noise. He said there's no possible way it was a human. He was like, there's no possible way. And then he also said it wasn't a small animal. He said, but it sounded like there was some type of knocking on a tree, but it was like this loud, continuous, just cadence of a knock. And he was like, there's no possible way it was somebody. I'm telling you, it was no person. And he was like, there was no way it was a small animal just making this noise. He said
woodpecker.
Woodpecker. But he said it was just this thud, just this boom, boom. And he was like, I don't even know where to begin of what it could be.
He didn't go, I'm going to go check it out.
No.
Yeah,
he sat there.
Nope. But he was like, I'm not saying it was Bigfoot. I'm not saying it was something like that. But he said,
I thought you were going to tell the story about Zach lived in a haunted house, but that the ghost or whatever was in the house knocking on the walls. He has video. I don't think he's here.
No,
he's on a trip.
Is this the audio you sent me like 2 years ago?
Literally just knocking
He's
on
actually
the
in Prince Edward
inside
Island
of the walls.
now.
It's creepy.
That's
just
right.
to get away from the knocking.
Yeah, so Clay actually sent us the audio, and we were listening to it.
Yeah.
And that was wild. And you
That's
said
wild.
you had to get the place, like a priest or something, to come bless the property?
Two priests came by.
I need an old priest and a young priest.
They came by. We don't want to hear that story.
But it would like open cabinets. It would slam doors or open the doors, but the knocking was the creepiest.
He would hear running steps in the background. There was a handprint on the wall that was much larger than a human handprint.
You sent me the picture of the handprint.
Yeah.
It
started on the outside, then it started moving on the inside doors.
But it's all stopped now.
All stopped now. Yep.
So
since he doesn't live there anymore.
Yeah. Well, no,
we don't know.
Yeah. Once the
so don't
priest
go
came
hang out with him.
That was it.
Okay, y'all are going to think this is 100% planned that I had this story, especially our listeners.
What do you got, Meow?
He planned it.
I promise. This literally just came to my mind as we're sitting here whenever y'all are telling me that story. So last year, I had a trip out to Michigan, okay? Can't remember exactly
Upper
what
Peninsula or...
What part
I
of
can't remember exactly. It was a little town. No, it wasn't Upper Peninsula. I cannot remember the little town I was in. Yes, I do. Sorry, Port Clinton. Port Clinton. That's actually
Ohio?
Yes, Ohio. Sorry, I landed in Michigan. My trip was to Michigan, and I ended up staying in Port Clinton, Ohio. That's where it was.
He's a hunter, folks, not a cartographer.
Yeah, cartographer. No,
geography not great.
Anyway, I had to book a hotel room, but I was in Port Clinton, and I won't give any names because I don't want to go there. But anyway, so I booked a hotel. I stay the night, okay? As I'm getting my things out, go upstairs. If you saw a picture of this hotel, you're like, this is one that you're already going into it saying,
you got that feeling.
I don't like this. Okay, it's one of those old house hotels. Okay, I'm setting the picture here. Okay, anyway,
put me in my chair, Norman.
So anyway, this is God's honest truth. God's honest truth. So anyway, go up to my room, getting ready for bed. I think I'd actually already dozed off, but I wake up to this and I was like, I wake up and I'm just like, what is that? I was like, it's in the
room
wall.
Service.
It's in the wall.
Housekeeping.
Right? No, it's not by the door. It's literally in the wall right by my head. Okay. And I'm just like, it's probably, I'm trying to make myself believe it's some type of, I don't even know what could be in the wall making that noise, but I'm just like, it's something with the washing machine. Like, there's a washing machine in my wall.
The couple next door.
Yeah, anything. It's the washing machine in my wall.
But a ghost.
Right. I'm just like, no shot. I'm going back to bed. It's been a long day. I've been traveling. Go back to bed. I said, okay. I'm going downstairs. I'm asking them what could be in my wall. So anyway, I record it. Legit. And this is it. Do you hear that thud?
Yeah.
And that was only one time, but it was a constant.
Would it do it in threes?
Yes. Or maybe not threes, but it was like, that's just one good thud if our listeners can hear it. Let's see right here. You hear that?
Mm-hmm.
It was in the wall just. I literally got up. I packed my bags in the middle of the night and I
Slept
left.
in the truck, yeah.
I was
left.
asleep in the truck.
No, I drove an hour and found another
That's
hotel.
when you just got to sleep with the noisemaker and crank that thing all the way up.
And what
She's
creeped me
braver
out
than I am.
anymore because I don't do haunted stuff. I don't do any of that. I just don't. But when I checked into that hotel, I saw a little sign sitting on the thing that was like "May your soul" something. And I said, "Dude, I'm out.
I gotta go.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out."
You checked
So
under the
I left.
mattress for a Ouija board.
Yeah.
Right?
I
Like, bro.
left.
Pentagram drawn under the bed.
So I don't know what it was, but I was on a top floor, so it couldn't have been anything. Like I wasn't near the ice machine. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I was.
Right, you don't know what it was. And that's what I'm saying. It's like everybody has a paranormal experience. If you really think about it, it's just, and who am I to say what it was? I don't know. That's why we don't have any judgment. We just listen to the stories, we share them.
Well, I want to hear some more duck hunting stories. Do y'all have any more crazy duck hunting experiences that anybody has turned in?
I definitely have hunting stories that people have turned in.
One from 2016. A fellow and his son were in Missouri, West Alton, Missouri, in the upper Mississippi waterfowl area,
Okay.
and actually saw what we were talking about with Lon, talking about the flying humanoids. They reported seeing a large flying. They said they thought at first it was a bird, an extremely large bird, and as it neared the ground, this was at dusk. So they're trying to make out what this is. They said they could see it clearly enough. They're getting there. He said this thing comes down and lands in like the reeds next to the water instead of the water. Goes down. They said as it's coming in, though, it's not flapping its wings. It's just gliding, which we get a ton of reports of these winged humanoid figures.
That just
They don't flap their wings.
I would
just
love to
glides?
They
swan
just
dive
glide.
into this down this rabbit hole.
And this thing comes in. And first,
is it
also,
a large? It's a
reports
large object.
it's like man-sized when it gets to the
Yeah.
ground. That's when they realize it's got a small head. It's got these leathery-looking wings. It gets to the brush. He says they witness it crawl out.
Like
and
a
I'm
bat
picturing like a
would.
giant bat. It crawls out and into the water and then swims out in the water, goes under, and disappears.
That's when I say, let's pack it up, boys.
And that's what
Time
they
to go.
did.
That's
He was
when I
like,
s- no,
he said, I looked at my
I'm
son,
out.
was like, get your stuff.
Yep.
We're getting out of here. He
Yep.
said his son won't go back to that area anymore. He refuses to hunt it. He said he's been back a few times and never seen anything else like it.
Yeah, I'd be finding me a new place to
But
duck
what
hunt.
what he wanted to know was what flies, then crawls,
Or glides.
then swim, and then
then
swims
swims also.
and then dives and goes off.
Submerges completely.
Yeah, what does it? Because ducks
in the-
waddle.
Yeah.
Ducks waddle. They're not
Yeah.
crawling. Like the only thing that
They're not
crawls
that
like
big.
that is a bat, and they're not going to play in the water.
Aliens, man.
Yeah, what was it?
Right.
But that's
we
it.
don't know
And he
what
said it's man-sized, and as it's coming in, they don't realize that till it hits the ground and crawls out, and that's when they realize like this
And the-
thing's 5 to 6 foot tall.
And the last thing it does is go in the water and swim off.
Swim out into the water, crawled after it landed, crawled. So it didn't just want to crash into the water. It comes down and
Right,
lands,
which
then
is
crawl,
odd.
which is
Like
weird.
Yeah, like what even? There's not even an animal
No.
that does that.
No,
No.
no. And where was it going? What's in the water? What's in the box?
What's in the box?
And we've gotten sightings of duck hunters who've seen enormously sized birds that for some
Oh, yeah.
reason that's much larger than it should have been. I know a guy who said that they were duck hunting, him and a couple buddies and his son, and I think this was down by Beaumont, somewhere in southeast Texas, I believe, right on the Louisiana border near Orange and all that. And they were all there, and it was in the morning, and they saw a bird, and it looked like it had 25-foot wingspan, like bigger than it should have been. They all watched it for a few minutes. They have no idea.
Wasn't a great blue heron.
No, it was not a
No,
great blue
yeah.
heron, right? Because you hear stories of people
Yeah.
misidentifying that. And in fact, you were talking about Alaska. My cousin moose hunts up in Alaska. He's been up there like 3 times. And he said that one time they're up there and he saw a bird. He doesn't know what it was, but it was way too big to be something that shouldn't be there.
So are most of the things that waterfowlers turn in story wise? Is it mostly with birds?
I would say it's mostly with unknown, either you could call it Bigfoot or other kind of humanoid, unknown sightings like that.
Yeah.
Because it's, everything has to drink, right? Everything
Yeah.
has to drink water. And it's because of y'all hunting the way it is around that water in some of the most obscure places you can go, it's almost like that's how they catch it. Like we talked about with the fishing, with any of that. It's
Yeah.
like they see things coming to the water, leaving the water. The same thing with the eyes where they hear it. Because you guys get out there in the wee hours of the night to set everything up 4 hours before daylight, right?
Yeah.
Get all your stuff out there. So you're out there when all that stuff's asleep. So they have no clue
What it could be.
that you're even out there till the lights
Yeah.
come on. Guys see it and we're like, what was this thing? It's funny because they'll report, we've had several of them where guys have reported a simple, quick story to us of, hey, I was hunting, duck hunting, turkey hunting, any of this, but it would be, I didn't see anything. The duck hunters are big on this where I didn't see, but I heard something
Right.
and I smelled something that smelled like death.
Yep.
Like it came by, it's the most rancid, dead smell, and then it's gone. So it's not like there's just like a dead animal over there. It's this come by smelling this and then moved on.
That may be a
Could just
hog.
be a wetland. Wetlands are
Yeah, but not
smell
like that. Not
really
like
rank.
that. Yeah, because so one of the guys that we had on a long time ago, Gary, was a field reporter for the BFRO. The reason we ended up meeting and talking to Gary is we know a guy that ended up killing a large hog on right around Thanksgiving. And 2 days later, it was a day later. A day later, one of his nephews goes out to the property, says, hey, where's the hog? I want to see how big it was. Drives over to where the hog was and calls him, was like, it ain't here. It's gone. And he's like, it can't be gone. So the thing's like 230 pounds. Like he drug it with the four-wheeler. He's like, well, maybe it got up. It wasn't dead. He's like, dude, I drug it a mile with the four-wheeler. Like, this thing's dead.
Yeah.
He's like, there's no sign of it. So he thought he was crazy and didn't find it. He goes out there, looks right where he put it, and it's gone.
And there's no bones or anything.
No,
No
no hair,
coyotes,
nothing.
So we went out there
Yeah, we went out
like 4 days after it had gone missing. We had gone out there to see. There's no sign of predation anywhere. There's no tracks of coyotes. There's no tracks of anything out there. There's no
gone. It's
blood.
gone.
It's like you went by and
Picked it
up, and it's just gone. So we tell him, hey, why don't you reach out to the BFRO guy and ask him? So he reaches out to that guy, gets Gary to come out. Gary does all of this investigation around it, taking all these notes. And then that's when he starts telling him, this is a common occurrence, that not a lot of people report this kind of stuff, but we get calls on deer and pigs vanishing like this with no sign of any predation, no hair, no blood. Dude, there was no blood.
But to even move a 250-pound hog. I
right.
mean,
There would
you
be
realize
tracks or something. Truck
It
tracks,
takes two of you to load a deer.
Yeah.
footprints, right.
if it was drug
You're talking about
off,
throwing
I mean,
another 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would be the only animal in Texas that would bite something and carry it off in its mouth is a mountain lion, and it's not big enough to move it. So then you
And
have
even
to go.
if it was, it would be drag marks
would
or
be
blood
drag
marks. It
or
would be something.
because it's not. It can't get it clear of the ground. So the only other animal that could possibly be in Texas and could possibly be in the wild would be an escaped tiger. But now you still have pug marks. We got a story about that too.
a tiger.
Yes.
A guy witnessed a tiger out of his bow stand.
There's no way.
He
Yeah.
was hunting in central Texas one morning.
Like a
or one
Bengal.
evening, and he
Yes.
saw a
legit
Siberian tiger,
orange Bengal.
like Bengal tiger, Siberian tiger, walk around. He called his buddies and refused to get out of the tree stand, made them drive out to there and pick him up.
Was there a local zoo?
Well,
Well,
there's more tigers in captivity in the state of Texas than in the entire world.
Oh, so that was like
Legit.
legit.
Yeah.
Somebody probably let it go or it got out.
Could you imagine
Dude,
you
no.
bow hunting like I hear
I did it.
something? There's a big deer
And there's
coming
a
up, and there's a
500-pound cat.
Bengal, a
500-pound
Bengal
cat.
tiger,
Hungry.
like
Imagine-
hungry. He's hungry.
Imagine sitting there and watching it like attack something. You're in your tree stand and there's a pig comes in and then this tiger just shoots out of the brush and mauls it and you're like, okay, that's enough for today.
And guess what? Guess what a tiger can do?
Oh, yeah.
They
Oh.
can climb.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't wrestle
It'd
a
be
house
easy
cat.
to smell you, too, because
Oh,
it'd be
my God.
fecus in your pants. You'd be easy to be found. You have to go cut your pants off.
Like that's one of the last things I would want to encounter in the woods. is
I'd rather
a
encounter
Bengal.
Bigfoot. Yep.
Ain't no doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
Ain't no doubt.
Yeah,
Because I know
absolutely.
he's not going to eat me.
I like my chances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you just so happen to be made out of what tigers like to eat.
Meat.
That's like the Black Panthers, if you've heard those, like in the woods. I feel like that's mine. Like I have no desire to go deer hunting because of
Stumble on that.
like personal experience, like hearing it in the woods and knowing what it was. And my dad was like, that was that Black Panther. I was like, I'm
Absolutely.
out.
Gotta go.
Like just chilling.
And I like panthers. They fascinate me just because, like, we know they're legit. Right?
Absolutely.
But yet, you do not see them often at all.
There's a guy
Like-
named Mike Mays, and he's in Texas, and he has a website called Texas Cryptid Hunter. And that's what he does is he documents photographs, game camera photos of Black Panthers all over the state of Texas. And he thinks that they've gone into other states because
Yeah.
cats don't know they're crossing a state line.
Yeah.
Right.
They just
They
go
have
wherever
no
the
idea.
food is.
Right. Yeah.
And if that cat has cubs and then they just keep going on, and there's lots of compelling evidence that there's Black Panthers all in the lower 48.
I've been told a story too. I cannot remember who told me this story, but it was a turkey hunter, and he was turkey hunting. I can't remember exactly where he was, but it was where we know panthers are. And I know some people say mountain lions, panthers, but he was stalking this turkey. Okay, he knew that the turkey was there. He was stalking this turkey, and he got to a brush pile or thick part of the woods where he had to get on his hands and knees and crawl through. As he's stalking this turkey, he's literally on his hands and knees, just sliding through the woods. And he turns, and he says he's in this brush that's just so thick. And he said he turns, and he literally says, like, from me to you, he says he's looking eye to eye with this panther. He said literally eye to eye because they're both stalking the turkey.
Panther said, "That's my turkey."
Yeah.
Literally.
You better
And
get
he
on.
said
You better get out of here.
he's looking eye to eye like this at the panther.
So
He said he
can
turned.
have it,
He
bro.
said he turns back, looks forward, then he turns back to the panther, and he said when he turns back, he was gone.
oh, that's the worst.
Didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Didn't see it run off. He said it was gone.
Yeah, we
Literally
we're,
gone.
We're
The
hunt-
panther
we-
could smell
there's
that guy all the way
mountain
back to the
lines
truck.
where we live and hunt, and I've never seen one in my entire life. Yet game wardens in our area tell you there's 5 or 6 in Parker County.
Yeah.
But they just amaze me
Yeah.
because, like, where are they at?
Right.
Like,
I think
they're
about them
sly.
watching you.
Oh,
Think about the
know
time you
you've been
walk in and
Oh,
you're
yeah,
like, why
you
do I
definitely-
get that feeling? Because a predator is watching you.
Yeah, you can feel it.
Absolutely.
They know.
For purposes of illustration, people who've been watching this don't know that there's another being in this room with us, and it's Birdie over here, Kayleigh's dog, who's been going around from each of us to get pet. Come here, cutesy poo.
She's making the rounds. She
Come here,
knows what's
cute.
up.
She knows.
She
That's
knows
her,
exactly
that's her
what's up.
nickname. Crossing the camera.
Yeah,
Oh.
and if you're not looking, you're not seeing things, right?
Yeah.
You just feel something just
Yep.
come up in between your legs. You're like, God.
Being on my
What
hands
is
and knees
that?
and coming face to face with a mountain lion would be
Oh, God.
really not awesome.
Yeah.
That would be not awesome.
So we got a story about a year ago. It was really creepy, and this took place in East Texas. And this fella liked to hunt hogs with his buddies, and they had a private lease that he leased from some rancher out there, and he wanted to upgrade. Hunting's kind of expensive, so he wanted to get him a nice thermal scope. We're talking about a good one. They're about $5-6 grand to put on his AR-10. And he finally saved up enough money and he bought one. And he was supposed to go hunting this weekend, and he had 2 buddies that were supposed to go with him. They bailed at the last minute. And so he's like, well, I'm going because I got this new toy. I'm going to take it out and use it, right? So he goes out there in this real thick piney wood forest. He puts his back against a tree and sits down on the ground, and there's glass in this area with that thermal scope. And he can see little critters, cottontails, raccoons, things like that. Well, he sits there for about an hour and a half and no hogs. So he's like, well, maybe I should move. So he's like, okay. He gets up. He moves about 150 yards away from where he was previously sitting, sits down, puts his back to the tree again. Now he's glassing in the opposite direction, looking for stuff. Well, about that time, he sees the heat signature of something moving. And he's like, oh, yeah. Pigs are coming in. This is going to be it. He gets ready. Well, he starts watching this thing, and at first, he thought it was a bear. But then he said the more he watched it, it wasn't a bear. He said it looked like a naked human being. And he said this thing was crawling on all 4s, and it crawled directly to where the tree he was just sitting at. And he said this thing is getting its face up to the bark, and it's examining, and it's transfixed on where he was just sitting. And he said he's freaking out. He's like, what am I looking at? Who is this? Why is this person out here? And why are they naked? And he's watching all this and it looks like a white signature through his thermal scope. He said this thing sits down and it puts its hands between its legs and it's like squatting. And he says it looks directly in his direction.
Oh, no.
And he's like, oh, no, I think it can see me. And he said it looks up like a wolf is going to howl. But he says, it says, help. I need help. And he said it's in a woman's voice.
Oh.
I get chill bumps every time.
I just got it.
Every time.
And he's like, okay, first of all, that's not a woman. So it's lying. And second of all, it knows I'm here because it's trying to get me to move.
And it's just human enough you don't want to touch off around, right?
Well, yeah,
You're
because
like,
he doesn't.
what
right.
if it's just a dude?
What if it's just a crazy person? I'm going to go to jail for murder, right?
Yeah, and I
It's-
just smoke the guy out
It's
here.
blowing
So
like a human distress call.
Yeah,
right.
It's
And
haunting.
we're the game.
Yeah.
yeah.
And he said he's watching it, and it's dead quiet, right? Or if he can't hear anything because he's focused on this. And he said a few seconds later, it says again, I'm injured. I need help. Is there someone that can help me? And he's like, man, I don't know. He takes his AR off safety and he shoots around over its head. He doesn't want to shoot it just in case it's a person. He said it doesn't move. And he's like, now any person who was trying to play a prank on me or something
They
like
would
that.
have stopped the show right
Yeah,
there.
the game's
It would have
over.
stopped
You're
right
shooting.
then.
He said it breaks to the left and starts running. And he's
Is it running like a human?
now
Like,
it's running like a human. And he's trying to follow it, but there's all these trees and brush in the way, so he's losing it.
And it's
I don't know if
fast.
you've ever used one of those thermal scopes. They're not like a regular rifle scope. It's really hard.
hard to, yeah.
And especially
track.
if it's, and he's like,
Is he on the ground or in a stand?
he was on the ground. He was just sitting with his back against the tree. So he's like freaking out. He's trying to keep this thing in the scope and he's getting glimpses of it here and there. He says he touches off another round. Pow! It's still moving. And he's like, he had a small magazine and that only held like 3 to 5 rounds because he doesn't need a big, and he's like, so he knocks that magazine out. He's trying to put another one in because he needs a larger magazine for whatever's fixing to happen. He's like, he's losing all the dexterity in his hands. He's fumbling, he's figuring, and he finally gets it loaded. And he says he's getting glimpses of it and it's still moving. But where it's moving is the opposite direction of where his truck is. So he's like, I'm not messing around. He said he ran to his truck and he ran faster than he's probably ever ran. He got in his truck, got out of there and probably didn't settle down till he got on the highway. And he's like, I don't know what that was.
Never used his scope again.
No, I think he keeps hunting, but yeah.
Never didn't.
See,
use
that
it.
would be
always
one.
like,
That
where
would
did
be
it go?
one.
Where is he?
That
Oh,
would be
God.
one I wouldn't go. I don't know if I'd hunt.
I
Humanoid.
definitely
If-
wouldn't go back in that area.
I mean, whatever it was saying, help me,
Yeah, he was trying to trick him.
and then turn and looks in your direction. Nope.
And
I'm
we get
out.
there's a lot of stories where guys report something calling to them. A lot of calling like that where it goes on to where it sounds like someone in distress that needs help, and you're like, bro, what is that?
See,
just like-
that's-
That's where those dudes go
So would
missing.
that be like an alien, a skinwalker,
See-
like Fae?
See,
Like-
I think what would get me the most is the sounds. Not
Oh, yeah.
so much like the noise, as in, I know noise and sound, but like if I hear something ruffling or walking through the woods like that, but when something either cries out for help or you hear a panther scream, like I've heard bobcats too.
Oh yeah.
Like it sounded like a 12-year-old girl was in the woods screaming for help.
If you didn't know what it was,
If you did not, I'm talking
you
about
have to be
just,
like, what is that?
yes, like that's what like the high pitch scream or that's. I'm out.
See, I
dude.
might have gotten got
I'm
because
out.
if they're like, help, I'm like, okay, here I come.
Here I come. Then
Give
you
me
put
just
the
a
thermal
minute.
on. You're like, wait a minute, hold up.
Yeah.
To answer your question, a lot of it feels like it's all one thing. Like I always go into the idea of whatever that thing was is evil. It's a demonic force of some kind. It has to get something out of whatever it's doing, whether it is getting some sort of energy it's draining from your fear. I don't know if it eats that. I don't know if it's going after him physically, because I mean, we've not heard of, there's always hunters that go missing, but it's not like they've been mauled, right? Or whatever this thing would do. So it feels, I always say it feels fey. It feels like there's some sort of fey or some sort of demonic undertone to it that's feeding off of your energy or your emotions. And when I think of it that way, these kind of sightings make way more sense. When you're like, that's what because it's gaining something not physical.
Right.
It's gaining something from your uneasiness, from your fear. And that's just pure evil that's going to feed off of that. Because, I mean, you think about this. I mean, I'm assuming we've all seen the movie Monsters, Inc., right? Where they scare the kids and the kids fill the batteries. If you ate the kids, you're going to run out of those that fill the batteries. But if I scared you over and over and over and over and over, I'm just draining you. And then I let you come back up, and then I frighten you some more. Whatever it is that hunts and stalks like that, it just feels like it's got some sort of evil side to it.
All right, next question.
I'll tell you, that story creeped me out, man. And when you hear these stories over and over, like you guys have for years, and you've been into it since we were kids, we all watch the same shows. We're roughly the same age. I mean, even the show Sightings, Unsolved Mysteries, what was the other one with Leonard Nimoy?
In Search
of. All these things. So you've been listening. It takes a while. It takes a lot to kind of shake you a little bit, right? Because you've heard it all.
You get conditioned.
That one got me.
Yeah, you get conditioned.
Yeah.
Well, because you can put yourself. That's what makes it so great when we talk about with other hunters and all of, is you can put yourself in there. There's a lot of people that that never go to the woods, right? The closest they get to it is at the city park, right? Or when they go to the soccer field and they back up into the grass a little bit. That's as close as they get. So it's hard for them to grasp it. But when you talk to people that have been in the outdoors their whole life, and then you start getting these stories, because it's real easy to laugh them off. But then you have to think about this. What if it happened to you and you were trying to tell that story seriously to somebody? It would be like you telling me a serious story you had and me going, no, it didn't.
Right.
Like, how can you do that to anybody? Because I don't know. Because just like that, think of somebody that didn't know that was a bobcat. Doesn't know what a mountain lion sounds like, has no idea. You hear that, you're terrified.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrified. Or you're going to look, I have to help them. What was that screaming? What was that? There's all these things, and I think it learns. Whatever that evil is, learns. And that's how it ends up working off it. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't go together, but kind of does.
Right.
Of this whole thing. What's lucky about at least with the hunters and the outdoorsmen, is most every one of them that you talk to has already racked their brain so much of what can that be, that when they come forward with it, they're like, look, it can only be this.
Yep.
I've gone back to that same spot a dozen times. I've tried to see this or that, and this is all it can possibly be. Like, I know every animal in the area that I hunt. I know everything that could be out there. So when those guys tell you something, I usually take it a lot more to heart when someone like that, because of the experiences they've had building up to this.
Yeah, they're credible witnesses.
Exactly. That's what we always say on the show. It's like, not just you need to look at the sighting and the things and the description and the details in the sighting, but who's the observer.
And they're not out there looking for it. You don't go on a duck hunt and go, I'm going to look for Bigfoot while I'm out there too. No, I'm trying to kill some birds.
Right.
That's what we're here for, right? I didn't get up early to go get scared. I'm trying to go shoot some birds. So when it happens, you're like, they weren't expecting this at all.
Yeah.
Like, you don't, because it's like anything else. When you go looking for certain things, you're going to find certain things. When you go out there and you have nothing, and it just happens, that's the one that usually shakes everybody. Is like, has this been going on this whole time?
And we'll get some comments from people, from duck hunters and deer hunters and, fishermen and all that, of their experiences, I'm sure, on YouTube after this, where they're like, yep.
Yeah.
Because even the first show we did a couple of years ago, there's still people that comment from time to time. We just had one the other day about sightings of Bigfoot. Yep. I've seen them when I was out duck hunting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And a lot of people don't tell nobody. They just move on with their life. They're like, I saw it.
Well, and it's like what you said. They rack their brains. They're going through, they've heard all these sounds. They spent their life in the outdoors. They're going to be the last ones to say, yeah, this is Bigfoot. But they've gone through all the scenarios, and that's what that's
the only thing that's left.
Yeah.
Is they're like, that can't be. There's no bear in this area. Nobody, like, we always laugh about people like, well, what if it's people in suits? Do you know anybody dumb enough to put on a suit and run around out there during season?
While somebody's bass fishing off the bank.
Right.
At early morning. That's
killed.
You're going to have a guy in a ghillie suit jump out and try to scare a bunch of you guys with shotguns sitting around the water. You're like, that sounds like a great idea.
Right.
If you're trying to get shot.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's going to happen.
There actually was a guy that dressed up in a Sasquatch outfit and jumped out in front of a car full of girls trying to scare her, and they ran him over.
They killed him. Yeah.
Good grief.
Yeah.
So
So
bad-
don't be. Hey, look, it's
don't
all
play
fun and
stupid
games. You
games.
dress up like Bigfoot and get run over. Don't do it.
And then
Public service
Yeah.
announcement.
PSA.
It's all
Look.
fun until it's not.
if you think Bigfoot's wild,
Until you're dead.
it gets crazier. Like there are, when you start going down the rabbit hole of sightings, you start getting into dog man.
Yeah.
That's why he asked you about the UP when you said
That's why I
Michigan.
asked.
Oh, dog man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sightings up there.
Because Michigan is eat up.
So, okay,
with dudes
dog man.
Seeing dog man.
I don't know what this is, but the sightings have been increasing
7-foot tall
since we
werewolves.
since we
Buckle up.
I
started
was about
the
to
show.
say, yeah, so like a werewolf.
That right.
7-footers.
So, one of the first documented cases that ever happened was in Wisconsin, and there's a newspaper writer named Linda Godfrey, and she was in this small town. I think it was Elkhorn, Wisconsin. I don't remember. Anyway, she's looking to find some information on an article she's writing, and she's at the local police department, and she's got access to the filing cabinet. And she's trying to dig up stories for whatever she's writing on. And she's going through the filing cabinet, and she comes across one that's labeled werewolf. And she's like, what is this? So she goes to the chief of police and is like, Robert, what is this? And he's like, yeah, believe it or not, we've gotten about 20 calls about this werewolf thing over the last, 10 years. And she's like, really? Do you mind if I look into it? And he's like, no, knock yourself out. He doesn't believe it. She starts looking into it, and it turns out there's been sightings in that area along this one road. It's called Bray Road. She literally wrote a book, The Beast of Bray Road. And there's been sightings since 1936, I think was the first sighting of this thing
Oh, wow.
that looks like a werewolf. And people have seen it, and leading to there's been lots of other sightings in other parts of the North America as well. And it's looks like a dog standing on its back two legs. But they said its knees aren't like ours where they bend this way. They're bent the opposite way like the dog would. And they don't know what it is. I remember this one guy was hunting. I don't remember if he was duck hunting. I think he was deer hunting. And he was glassing this pasture, and he saw this wolf head about 8 foot off the ground in a tree. And he was like, somebody must have trapped a wolf and hung the thing from the tree, just trying to be cruel. And he's like, well, I'm going to go down there and cut it out, free it. So he gets down, walks over there, and when he gets to the wolf, it backs up into the trees. And he's like, oh, it's not hanging from a tree. It's standing that tall. And then he realizes it's on 2 feet. So, of course, he gets out of there. But there's all these sightings all over, and people don't know, like, how could a werewolf be real? I don't know.
Thackerville, Oklahoma. Turkey hunter out there, which is out near the Windstar. If y'all ever heard of that big casino they got there in Oklahoma, Thackerville is where it's at. This was years ago. Guy turkey hunting, same thing. Sitting out there in all of his gear, had his shotgun on his knee, waiting. Said he sees this big tom, looks like it's all swole up, making its way along a creek, and then he realizes, oh, it's not a turkey, it's a pig. It's just a big black pig. He said this big black pig turns into, it stands up on its back legs, and now it is a dog walking on 2 legs as it walks off this creek and back up and out of there. And he's watching this at 80 to 100 yards, watching this thing come down this creek, get up and walk out. And he got up and walked out. He's like, nope.
So, what is that?
Yeah,
Obviously, we don't think somebody's uncle transforms into a werewolf when the moon comes out. But is it something demonic? Like, what is it? Is it feeding off your fears? Like, if you saw a werewolf movie when you were a little kid and it knows that you're terrified of that, maybe it manifests its look to look like something that it knows would scare you. I don't know, because I definitely don't believe that there's real life werewolves walking around. But then there's things like the not deer, which is very similar to the dog man stories, where people are out and they see a deer and they're like, man, something don't look right. It looks like a deer, but it's moving weird. And then it stands up and is walking around on its back 2 legs. Not for like a few seconds, like it's looking to eat something off a sapling, but like just walking around.
Nonchalant. Well, the first thing they notice is its eyes aren't on the side of its head.
Where are they at?
They're moved to the front like a predator.
Right.
So you're looking at a deer with forward-facing eyes.
Vampire.
That's the first thing people talk about is like, it's almost
eyes.
like something, it's almost like something wants to look as close to a deer as it possibly can, but it's not exactly sure how they're supposed to look.
So,
And the way it moves is a little off. And they always, of course, they go to CWD. They're like, it's because of CWD. Well, you see chronic wasting disease, and then you see what these things are. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Not even close.
and they're saying they're walking on their back legs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, walking around.
What deer's doing that?
They stink
I mean,
as
you
well.
see deer, rear up and fight or whatever, but like this thing's walking around, it's got eyes on the front of its face.
Yeah,
Lots of things can walk on their back legs. They're not meant to. Horses can do it. but they're not meant to do it. You can have them
Bear.
rear up and walk, yeah, but they're not meant to do it. And that's how you can, and that's what they talk about. The gait of this thing is off. Everything is off about it. That's why it looks 90% like a deer till it moves. And then as it starts moving, you're like, oh, okay, that don't fit in.
Yeah, and when we first received the
Roll
story
'em
of
up.
something like that, we were like, oh, I've never heard of that. But over time, we started getting
Yeah.
more and more. And then people
Yeah.
hear it. We had one just sent to us last week on Patreon by a guy named Jerry. I think it was a pseudonym, but he was talking about him and his buddy. I think this was in Ohio. He lived on like 20 acres, and his parents were gone at work all day, and they would leave him a list of chores to do and that kind of thing. And they would ride their dirt bike and their four-wheeler around, and they were playing around one day. And he said that they saw a deer standing there, and it looked kind of odd, and the thing stood up on two legs, and he said it smiled at him.
Cowabunga.
What'd you say, Kayleigh?
Cowabunga.
Well,
I love when the deer are friendly like that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think he said, so I listened to the story.
Oh,
I think he
okay.
said it was 13 foot. He thought it was about 13 feet
That's
high,
what he thought.
tall.
Well,
Yeah.
whatever it is, it freaked him out,
Yeah.
obviously.
What
'cause
could that be?
And it smiled.
that's what he said. It smiled at him.
Said sup.
Said,
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
it didn't say that.
Took,
but
yeah.
took a step
Do you want to
towards
go to
him,
lunch
right?
later?
yeah.
Took a
You
step
doing
towards
anything?
him, and he was like, I'm out.
right.
How many of these stories, too, do we think there's possibly things involved, as in,
Mind-altering chemicals.
yes.
Lots of times they will make that a point up front.
To say
Is
that,
we weren't drinking, we don't do drugs, we weren't even on caffeine. Like they will come out, and there is, I would say, out of 90% of the stories, a lot of that is
Yeah.
up front. Like, hey, look, I know this is being said. I've never done drugs. I've never drank. I'm always like, well, y'all aren't fun. So then it goes into, I don't see this. Like we weren't even on caffeine. And then they'll tell you the story.
Yeah,
It's like they
because,
want to make sure.
You know, a lot of people that don't believe it either say, there was some things involved that should not have been for you to see something like that. And there are things that make you, probably do things or see things that,
So I've been told.
Yeah, I've never experienced anything like that. But a lot of times, whether it be waterfowl hunters, deer hunters, turkey hunters, you're out there when it's early, so you already can't see well.
Right.
And I've got good vision, but there's times I'm like, man, I can't. Is that 10 yards in front of me? Is that a duck swimming through the decoys? And then
You start thinking you see
Then
it.
you put people who don't have good eyesight at that time of morning, and hogs that get out in the water. I mean, you can. There's all kinds.
Your
of
mind
stuff
definitely can play tricks
Oh,
on
we
you,
talk about
especially when you're stressed or
Oh, yeah.
nervous about something.
We talk about stump bucks all the time. At times you sit out there and you're like, oh, there's
There's
a
a
good
deer.
one. There's a good one.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, never mind.
10
That's the
minutes
same bush
later,
I thought last time.
10
I'm gonna
minutes
go cut that
later, it's a
down.
cut off stump. But
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're like, man, I'm so dumb. But yeah, and we even get some to where they're like, hey, look, we was partying. So, I mean, it may have been part of it.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's almost like certain, I guess for lack of a better term, certain vibes or certain energies of certain stories. It's almost like go hand in hand with seeing certain things. But like with the hunters, it's never that. Like it is always something completely unnatural and completely out there. Like it's almost like we as outdoorsmen and outdoors women, we get to experience that little veil that nobody's going to see unless you're there, right? And you get to be part of it. Like there's nothing better than being out there in the woods when the sun comes up, when the world comes alive. To me, there's nothing better than that. And to be able to see some of the things think about all the cool things you've got to see, just natural, everyday cool stuff that most people never get to witness. So when they witness those little small things, like we said, is like, I give more credence to it. I'm like, these people, I mean, it's an attention to detail. If you're a hunter, you're a very detailed individual. You have to be in order to be successful.
Yeah.
So when you do witness something like that, again, it goes back to like the guy I know that quit everything. Whatever it was, changed him. Like, I don't think I could mistake anything in this world to convince myself to quit doing it. Like, I wouldn't be like, I think I saw Bigfoot. I'm not, like, I think he's real. I'm never hunting again. I would have to be like, bro, I saw something out there that I can never forget.
Yeah.
Never
Do
forget.
the majority of stories that you guys get of creepy, spooky, paranormal, just whatever happen at dawn or dusk? Or wait, is dusk in the evening? Yeah.
I would say mainly it's usually at dusk
Is when
For hunters, I would, but like
usually in the
other
evenings
experiences,
or
I
at
don't
night.
think it matters.
it
as
matters,
much. But
yeah.
hunters
but in
definitely.
the woods at dusk is when
Yeah.
they come out to.
Yeah, and
It does seem that way. It doesn't seem like you see them in the mornings as much as you do at night.
Yeah.
And I
they've
feel
been-
like we get a lot of stories because being hunters, it's a community, right? So other hunters now may not want to tell their story, but if they know that I'm telling another hunter, they feel more relaxed with
Well, like you
sharing.
said, with the safe space, they know.
Yeah.
that they're
I mean,
like,
my
send it in.
first encounter paranormal, the only paranormal encounter I ever had was while I was hunting, and I kept my mouth shut. When I was about 10 years old, 11, we were hunting in a place northwest of where we live, and I was in this mesquite flat, and my dad would drop me off, and I'd be in this stand by myself, and he'd come gather me up when the hunt was over. This was one evening, and he dropped me off, and he's like, "I'll pick you up 30 minutes after dark, no problem." I'm up there. I've got my 270 with me, and I'm sitting in this field, and it's kind of windy out this day. And what I notice, something moving over in the brush, and I'm not sure what it is. So I pull out my binoculars and I'm looking, and it looks like a lightning bug, but bigger. Like it's glowing. It's emitting this light, a green light. And I proceed to watch this thing, and it's moving, but it's moving against the wind, which doesn't make any sense. And it's about the size of a basketball. And I watch it move all the way across this mesquite flat against the wind and then just go off in the brush. Probably took 8 to 10 minutes for it to move that distance. It was moving very slow. I didn't know what I saw. I didn't want to seem like the idiot at deer camp, so I didn't say nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had about 10 different stands on this property, and there was about 8 of us hunting it, and we would switch stands. Like, oh, tonight I'm going to try this stand, or Bob, you try this one. Okay, cool. A couple weeks later, another dude is sitting in the stand that I was sitting in when I had my encounter, and he comes back to camp, and he's all geed up. And we're like, what happened? He's like, you're not going to believe what I saw. And I hear him say the exact same thing. He saw this green orb come out of this side of the pasture, go to the other. And I was like, you saw it too? And they're like, you saw it? And I'm like, I sure did. I just didn't say anything because I didn't want to be ridiculed. You know, I was a kid. A couple weeks later, they talked to the landowner and they asked, where did you put the stands? And we told him where that was. He's like, oh, that's an old Indian burial ground. So I don't know. Was that a ghost? Was that a spirit? Was it an orb?
100%.
I don't know. But I saw
that's-
something.
That's validating, right? When you would have never told that story. You would have kept that probably for the rest of your life, not saying anything. And then you got another guy who's brave enough to be like, yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. Once I heard him say it, then I was like, oh, yeah, I saw it.
And he felt validated then too.
Me too. Yeah. 'Cause I was like, man, I'm not saying
Show of
nothing.
hands, who
Because they're
saw
going to
it?
be like, dude, this kid, you're off the leash. You're an idiot.
I feel like there's just so much energy too, especially when like around Navajo, like Native American, like burial grounds. Like they're so like entrenched in their
Very much
beliefs
so.
and spirituality and all of that. And just for
Yeah.
sure, you're not crazy.
Yeah, very much so.
I No, he's
Like,
crazy.
If you, and when I was
that
telling
doesn't
that
prove it,
story,
but
I
he's
thought
crazy.
it reminded me of, you had a story, I think, about like the skinned person, that a duck hunter, and it was later
A
validated.
dude,
Do you remember
a dude deer hunting saw
Oh,
it
my
and
God.
talked about it with Native Americans. Yeah, he's talking about it. It was in Louisiana. They were out hunting, and he said he saw something. He was up in a ladder stand, and he hears something moving through the brush, and he's like trying to glass it and see what's going on. And he said what he witnessed was a human being that had been flayed. Said there is no skin on this guy, and he's walking through the brush, and he just watches him walk the whole time. It's not until like a couple of days later they're talking about it, and they said that the Native Americans that were in that area used to if you had done wrong in the tribe or in their group, they would flay you and release you into the woods and just let you walk till you drop dead. And nobody in that whole hunting group knew anything about this until that. So he was like, is that the ghost of a flayed Native American? Is that the ghost of someone they did it to now? Like, like we don't know what's going on.
Oh my
but just a normal, he said it was to the T, like exactly like you would see a flayed man.
And he
just
didn't know that was a
nonchalantly
tradition that
walking.
was
Right.
carried
Yeah,
out
had
at the
no
sighting.
idea.
That's not something you're going to make up, right?
Right, it
You might
validates.
say you've heard orbs and you've heard Bigfoot and you've heard ghosts. That's so specific and unique, and then to be validated by the
Exactly.
history of it later on.
You're like, who just thinks up? I saw a guy that was completely skinned alive walking
Yeah.
around here. You're like, there's
Get
no
outta
way.
here.
Like, dude, it's get out of here. Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you think there's thousands of these stories, I mean, and thousands that you guys have heard, but there's probably thousands upon thousands that are actually exist. If one of those stories is true,
Just one.
Right.
just one.
Yeah, I think it's a tip of the iceberg. I think for every story we receive, there's probably 100 that never go reported.
Yeah.
And then I think about older generations, like my grandfather's generation. If he saw something like that, he would go to his grave and not say a
Oh,
word.
he never said a word.
Right.
Yeah.
Or now, because of social media, we're more likely to share with one another. It's made the community better because there's a lot more sharing.
Yep.
But you take 2 or 3 generations ago, they never would say nothing.
Right.
So there's no telling what's been lost. Like I think about, when they were developing the atomic bomb and stuff, they were able to keep everybody's lips closed about that secret stuff. So, if Roswell was a real thing and
Yep.
these old men really were collecting parts, they probably all just didn't say nothing.
Yep.
If it even happened. But, that's what I think about.
Wow.
Man.
I did have a question for you guys. So, what would you say are the top 3 sort of creatures or experiences that people have in the outdoors? You said Bigfoot would be number 1.
That would be
yeah.
number 1.
Would Leatherman be number 2? Bat Leatherman
Oh, yeah. You'd
be number 2.
Glimmer
probably.
Man?
like the
No,
like the,
you don't remember Batman?
oh,
that
yeah.
flies-
the
glides
winged
in?
humanoid guy.
I'm trying to think
Or
what would be the
Mothman.
most common.
Are aliens a thing?
The
With the
Chippewa.
outdoors?
UFOs, not typically aliens, but like lots of people see UFOs. But the stories are all kind of similar. Like I saw something in the sky, I don't know what it was.
But when you say like humanoids, insectoids, stuff like that, like are those aliens?
They could be.
They could be. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely could be. I mean, there's a lot of stories now where they have begun to link UFO sightings with Bigfoot sightings. Like those are almost
They actually all live together.
Yeah, well,
Bigfoot. The
that was
humanoids,
always said is
insectoids.
that the aliens came down to let Bigfoot out to go to the bathroom break.
Like that's their pet.
Like that's or he gets in trouble and they drop him off and that's why they're all here.
Would a Chippewa be on that list?
Not really.
Really?
It's really you get a few stories of that, but never
not-
by hunters. And I think and my theory is because if you were out there hunting, anytime I'm out there, it turns into a coyote hunt. When I
Yeah.
see a coyote, it's on
Yeah.
at that point. If I was to see this blue dog chupacabra, it's on. Like I'm going to light this thing up, right? I think that's the difference. Is most of the time people report seeing them around their house, around things like that. We get a lot of tales. Man, you get Bigfoot, you get dogmen sightings by a lot of hunters, which is crazy, but you get a lot of stuff like that. And then you get like the people of the woods. You get the little people. It's like, it's almost like this whole thing. Well, now we're getting to where there's more and more Glimmerman sightings,
Yeah,
where
that's
people
true.
are talking about seeing, the Glimmerman and the
I
hunters for
love
that
the
whole thing.
names.
Yeah.
It's
So of course, I know Glimmer Man. Explain to Matt, a newbie in the paranormal field.
Have
what-
you
what
ever seen the
Glimmer Man
movie
is.
Predator
With Arnold Schwarzenegger.
with Arnold Schwarzenegger? You never have? Excuse yourself. Right there. So
Go ahead.
we'll wrap this up with adults. In that movie, and it's in all the ones on there, there is this alien creature that can cloak itself where it looks invisible. But
not
it's-
quite
But
invisible.
not quite. The edges are a little, it's a little magnified. It's almost like you're looking through a slide of water.
I got
the
you.
way it is. So we started making jokes about it a long time ago and started calling it the Glimmer Man just for fun. And we posted a few of the old stories that we had found about it, this, that, and the other. And you talk about a snowball effect. It was to where it is a thing to where we get dozens of sightings
Of Glimmer
of
Man?
people reported seeing this thing just like a shimmering
See, it's like
outline of a human being.
translucent, so you can see
And it's
something
just
there,
like in the trees.
but you don't
You
know
find
what
a good-
it is.
It'll be in the trees. They find it just in the woods moving, all kinds of wild stuff. But it is basically an invisible, shimmering humanoid. And we've started getting a lot of stories and comments about that. It's almost like it just watches
It's like
you.
a silhouette of a human, but
Yeah.
it's translucent.
Show it to the class.
I'm trying to find a good picture here. I'm trying to pull it up.
We may have to put this in the show notes.
Yeah,
too.
I'm going to put it in the show notes.
So
But
people see
what's
it.
interesting is
Here we go.
there was a UFO researcher back in the 60s and 70s, and his name was J. Allen Hynek. And he went into it not believing in the subject, but the more and more people he witnessed or interviewed that had witnessed things, he slowly began to change his mind and eventually ended up believing in it. His son, Joel Hynek, is the one that developed the character, that invisible cloaked being on the movie The Predator. It was his idea. So it always makes me wonder, did his father tell him something that was later used in that film? And since this is a Halloween edition show, I think you got to tell the Gary Christensen story, because that's probably the best Halloween story of all time when it comes to this stuff.
So Gary's the man that I had told you the story about the missing
BFRO
pig
and the missing
from the
pig.
BFRO. He told us a story, and it's probably my favorite. When I'm asked, what's my favorite Bigfoot story? This is it. It happened, and it's funny because it has a tie to Halloween. He was on a pheasant hunt in South Dakota, and he was up there visiting family and went up there to do a little pheasant hunting. And while he was up there, he was informed of a story that had happened years ago where a Bigfoot came up out of a creek bottom and like did this whole big attack on a group of kindergartners and like first graders at the school, at the local elementary school. They called the police. The police showed up, started shooting at it, whipping rounds at it, run the thing off. It was a whole big deal. So Gary, being Gary, is like, oh, I got to find out what this is about, right? So he goes and he finds a lady that was one of the students, and he starts questioning her, and she starts telling him, this is what we saw, this is what happened. Said that they were on the playground. Bigfoot appears out of this creek. Said they start hearing screams and yells. This thing appears out of the creek, comes up out, grabs a stump or a log of some sort, throws it. This is back when there was no fence, right? Back when because they used to, they fence kids in now. We used to not have any fences around the playgrounds. It throws this stump at the kids. It's putting on all of this stuff, going crazy. The cops slide up. Cops open fire on the thing. The students or the teachers are trying to get the students back into the school. Like, it is craziness. She said it affected her so much that she has never been camping. She doesn't go to the outdoors. She doesn't mess with any of that. So she tells him, a few of the other students that I was in the class with still live here. You need to go talk to them. So he talks to a few of them, goes on. They say, hey, look, our teacher's still alive. You need to go talk to her. He's like, oh, perfect. An adult that was there. He goes straight to her. She's, late 70s, early 80s, telling this story. And as they get into it, she goes, you need to go speak to the principal. And he goes, why? And he goes, because he was the one in the suit. And they go, he's like, what are you talking about? She said it was done for Halloween. He dressed up.
What?
We talked to the police. The police shot blanks. He goes to the principal, goes through the whole thing with him, sits down and is like, explain to me what happened. And that's the story. We wanted to scare the kids, give them something fun for Halloween. We knew the kindergartners would be out there.
Scare kids or scar kids?
Exactly.
Well, that's right.
They come in, all this goes down. He was like, it was great. The teachers had a blast. The kids were terrified. It was awesome. He said, Gary asks, did you ever tell the kids that this was fake? And he goes, come to think about it, I didn't. I just assumed the teachers let them in on it. He goes, well, just so you know, they didn't. And now you have a group of 40-something-year-old adults that are terrified of what they witnessed, what they bared witness to.
And won't go camping.
Won't go do
outdoors.
anything, nothing.
Right. So it affected them their whole life.
So
even though we know it was fake.
So Gary goes back, takes the recordings and everything, and sits down with each one of those people that he talked to and lets them hear it. The whole thing is like, it was all fake. It's taken their whole life to get to that. And it's my favorite story because of this. It wasn't real, but the reactions and the effect was exactly the same way as if it was.
Yeah.
This whole thing affected those people as if it were a real event.
Yeah.
Their whole life, they had been raised believing Bigfoot was real, believing that they had a vicious encounter with this thing, and that the cops themselves, the people that you're entrusted to keep you safe, drove that thing away. Turns out it was all BS.
Especially to do that to 5, 6, 7.
Right.
How,
Exactly.
like when you're so impressionable.
But that's Halloween like in the 70s.
In the 70s, right.
So,
You couldn't do that
No
now.
rules.
And now there's a class action lawsuit.
Exactly, right? But it's my favorite. It's because it's Halloween. It ties in with all of it.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
And you
Bigfoot
know
story.
it to be true.
I know
like, you
every
We know it to be
Yeah,
true. And
every
that's
bit of it.
what we get the crazy sightings from people, and it's the same as we always say. Whether they really saw a not deer, if they really saw a chupacabra,
Yeah.
the result is the same.
Yep.
It's affected them.
It's traumatic.
So
Yeah.
who am I to sit there and say, you're a liar, you're full
Yeah.
of it, you didn't see that, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know what you saw.
I have no idea.
We don't pretend to know. That's why all we do is tell stories.
Yeah.
Up to y'all to decide what you think.
But it's got to be therapeutic for the people to be able to at least
Absolutely.
get that off their chest.
A
And
lot
I've
of
heard people like thanking you, in letters, just hey, thanks for providing a safe space, or I'm glad I got it off my chest.
And then you get one-offs, of course, of crazy things where you're like, that's the only one of these we've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like that is, I hope I never, a 2-foot slug man crawled up out of a hole. I'm like, bro,
Yeah, that's
I
probably
don't know
not
if
real.
that's real or not, but guess what? I don't ever want to see that again. I don't want to know that that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Slug man.
Yeah.
I have
Not
a
interested.
cousin like that who every word out of his mouth is not real. And so I'll say something like, did Sam tell you that? And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
don't believe him. That is, he made that up.
Yeah. He's just messing with you.
Yeah.
What would you say would be the best table cryptid? Just something that would be delicious to eat. Your favorite table cryptid.
Ooh, that would be a good one. It would have to be a sea creature, one of those sea monsters. Something along those lines would probably be, because I still think a penguin is the ideal animal to beer butt on a grill because they're built for it.
Don't they look delicious?
And they're chicken and fish. It doesn't get any
It's
better
true.
than that, right? I mean, it's like they're like this tall.
Penguins are awesome, though.
I bet they taste great too.
I'd go Thunderbird, right?
That's what I would go. Yeah, 'cause
that
it'd be
would
like a
probably
big-
be the move.
Big
'cause-
turkey cookout.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving Thunderbird.
Tokalashi would be good. Tasty, I
Yeah,
think.
that would probably be good. Mokele and Bimbe, the giant dinosaur from the Congo,
There
that
you
would
go.
probably be a banger. That would, and it would feed a lot.
Feed a village.
Yeah, you could feed a village on that. That'd probably be pretty good. I keep thinking about the Flintstones, like the big Brontosaurus rib rack.
Yeah.
That's what I think about. Still there.
Man.
So we do have a story that our producer Chris Isaac has keyed up for us.
He's been asleep over there.
Yeah, he is. We've been keeping him busy. Figure we could maybe play that and get our reactions to that.
Oh, boy.
Here we go.
Yeah.
That wasn't
My
uneasy
name is
enough.
Mike Woolley. I'm from Keachai, Louisiana. I had an encounter back in December of 1981 with a Bigfoot while deer hunting. It was a beautiful December day, perfect weather for a hunt. Temperature was about 30 degrees. I got to my deer stand that evening, about 3 o'clock, got on it, and I was sitting there, and I was facing to the north. And my deer stand was located about 1.5 miles down Old Logging Road and off the main highway, secondary highway. And what I would do, I would park my truck halfway down the logging road, and I would walk in the rest of the way because I didn't want to drive my truck down and spook the deer. Well, it must have been, I hadn't been there no more than 30 minutes, and this little young doe deer come running from the east out of some briars and brush that there's no way a human could walk through that. But she come up to my deer stand, and what was so amusing, come up to my deer stand and laid down, up there, actually touching the deer stand. She was wringing wet with sweat. She had been run. Something had been running her. And first thing hit my mind, it was a big buck. And I said, I'm going to kill me a big buck. So when I raised my head back up, I was turning my head, and out of my peripheral vision, I seen something hop to a tree. And it was tall, about 7-8 foot tall. It was black, real hairy, like a gorilla. And I knew it wasn't a gorilla because there was no circus in town, and I knew it hadn't escaped, and I knew we didn't have no gorillas running loose. So the first thing hit my mind, it was somebody dressed up in a suit trying to scare me off my good deer hunting spot. Well, immediately I go to talking to this thing, telling it, take the head off, get out of here, don't come back, this ain't no joke, I don't find it funny, just leave. Well, this thing was just eyeballing me, looking at me and really giving me some sinister looks. And I knew right then, I said, something ain't right. Well, this went on for a few minutes, and he must have been about 20 yards from me, 15, 20 yards. So I take my rifle. I've got a high-powered rifle with a high-powered scope on the rifle, and I looked through the scope at the creature. And I knew that after looking at it, I was in a situation because it was cold. The moisture was coming out of its mouth, its nostrils. It looked really, really human. the face was human. The eyelashes, I could see the eyelashes. You know, the eyes, the teeth were big teeth, flat teeth like our teeth. So anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it, and it's really PO'd at me, and it lets out a roar like a lion. Well, about 100 yards to the northeast, there's this really, really loud whistle comes back, you know, a signal to the growl. Well, this creature looks over that way and whistles back in the same tone whistle, and then turns and looks at me. Well, I'm kind of like, hey, you know, what's going on here? You know, something's up. I'm in trouble, big trouble. Well, all of a sudden I hear movement coming from that direction, and I knew whatever he signaled was coming to meet up with him. And I knew that I was probably going to be the one going to be on the losing end of the stick, you know. Well, I thought it was a feral human because I'd heard about them, you know, done some reading about them. But as far as a Bigfoot, I thought that was something that existed out in California. I just thought that was something somebody made up to make money off of. Well, I jumped in off my stand, and I'm running to the west to get to my truck. And I look over my left shoulder, and this creature is running through the woods, and it is just moving brush. It's running through the brush, and it's bulldozing the brush down. And I knew, man, this thing is going to get me. It is mad. It is PO'd. It's going to get me. Well, I'm coming up on my truck, and I'm thinking, well, I got to stop to unlock my truck. And when I get ready to unlock the truck, he's going to make his move. He's going to have me. Well, something crossed my mind to fire a warning shot. Well, when I got to the tailgate of the truck, I threw my rifle to the left, pulled the trigger, and the shot fired, and the bullet hit about 7 foot up in a tree and blew Baaaack in front of his face. Hit him the Baaaack actually hit him in the face because he was about 3 foot from the tree. If the creature would have been another 2 seconds, the bullet would have hit him dead in the head. Well, I got in a truck. I'm driving off. I look in my rearview mirror, and lo and behold, his buddy that had signaled had been tailing me coming up the logging road. I didn't have a one chasing me. I had 2. Well, they kind of stood there and looked at each other as I was driving off. But my recommendation to anybody, if you ever have an encounter in the woods, is don't fool with them. Don't make eye contact. Don't point, and surely don't point a gun. Do not engage this creature, because if you do, you will lose. I didn't shoot it. It was just too human. The face, it was bipedal. You know, it walked on 2 legs, just like we did. But it was just too human. The face was too human. The eyelashes, the teeth, the jaw structure, the forehead, it was light brown. The face was light brown, like it had a dark suntan. But I couldn't pull the trigger because something told me this ain't right. It's not the right thing to do.
Crazy. That guy's name was Mike Woolley, and he's no longer with us, but I believe his story. It was pretty crazy.
I think of the 2 Bigfoots at the end, 2 big feet, the two Bigfoot.
What's the proper?
I don't know.
2 big feet.
The 2 big feet, 2 Bigfoots when they get to the edge of the road, and they're like, God, how does this keep happening?
We just wanted to talk to you
got
about your
away
car's
again.
extended auto injury.
Yeah. How can we not catch them?
So
They're trying to catch us.
one Sasquatch is a Sasquatch. Multiple Sasquatch is a Sasquatch, and the little ones are Sasquirts.
Sasquirts. That's cute. And that was very detailed to not believe him. Not believe him.
And I can just
believe it.
envision them whistling at each other. Just
when he drove off, they both looked at each other like,
they're like, I got him.
no,
I got
I'm saying whenever they were whistling at each other.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just.
Like the Hunger Games.
I found him.
He's up here, and he's scared. We got him. He's got it. Well, there's multiple reports of stories of guys saying that they know what guns are. Yeah. That the minute you lift them up, they're like, nope.
Yep.
They know exactly what those things
And
are.
you mentioned feral humans. There are stories, especially like in the Smoky Mountains, of there still being like feral people living up there. Or we even have like in cities like New York, like down in the subway system, feral, devolved humans living down there. They feed off
Toothless and
rats and
ruthless.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if that's the first time you heard a story like Mike's before, it may not seem that stand out to you that much. But if you've read hundreds like we have, there's a lot of cases where people were going to shoot it, but it looked too much like a human
And it
and they
didn't feel
decided
right.
not to. Right. They felt
Couldn't
bad.
do it.
Right.
Well, Kyle and Cam, thank y'all both so much for taking time and
This has
sharing
been
these
great.
stories.
Absolutely.
We may see the hunter numbers go down after they listen to this podcast because they don't want to go.
No,
spend
get
it.
outside and have an experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Report your story.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Send it in.
Yeah. So, tell people where they can find you.
You can find us on any podcast platform that there is. We're probably on almost all of them. If you have any stories or anything you'd like to share with me and Cam and the listeners, you can email the show, expandedperspectives@yahoo.com. We have a hotline, 888-393-2783. You can call it in if you feel like telling it rather than typing it. And, of course, we offer an additional show to Expanded Perspectives called Expanded Perspectives Elite, and that's on Patreon. So download the Patreon app, find Expanded Perspectives Elite, and you'll get more stories because we've been doing Elite for
10.
10 years. So those are episodes that's only available for members.
I'm an elite member.
Amazing.
So there's like, you're looking at, I don't know how many shows are probably out now between those two. Probably almost 800 total
Wow.
Total shows,
episodes or
yeah,
something
right.
like
That's
that.
awesome.
You know,
Man.
some of them
Maybe
you can't
1,000.
find anymore in Podcaster, but if you go to the website, expandedperspectives.com, a lot of those old ones are on there. I don't know, but for whatever reason, after you reach a certain number, the old ones start falling off.
Yeah.
People have told me how to fix it. I'm not super tech savvy.
Do you guys know like the highest listened to or viewed podcast? Because I've listened to a few of them, but like I want to hear. Just some
Like
spook-
stuff that we've covered.
Yeah.
I would
like
say the
of
wackier,
y'all's.
the more crazy it is, I think that's where we get the more
Norwegian
more
Mountain
numbers.
Trolls.
Okay.
That's a good one. The Little Hunters. People went crazy for that one.
Dogman Island.
Dogman Island. Yeah, there was a
Okay.
big one on that one.
But
Yeah, there's like outliers.
Yeah.
Like there's certain things that just click with people are like, I want to know what that's about.
Yeah.
And then they listen. And then that's where, I mean, like we discussed, sometimes you get some stories instantly where you're like, yeah, I don't think that's real. And then you get some where you're like, I really wish or hope that that's not real.
Yeah.
Just like the one with the thermal scope. I don't want that to be real.
No.
I want every bit of that to be a farce.
It's
Because,
going to haunt me.
dude,
I wanted to
don't
buy
like
a
that.
thermal scope until I heard that story, and then I was like, no, you know what?
I actually don't need to see
know.
that
I
well.
would rather
farm
just-
it hunting by myself.
I'd rather just die unknown. I just would rather have the thing kill me and me not know it's coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't need to see my end. They're like, oh, this is great. Don't need that.
Well, thank y'all so much again for taking time to
thank
come
you.
out. Also,
Thanks for inviting us.
Clay and Kayleigh, thank y'all both so much as well.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you to our podcast producer, Mr. Chris Isaac, for taking the time to host us on this podcast. And also, thank you so much to all of our podcast listeners out there. Y'all stay safe and God bless.
Thank you for listening to the DU Podcast, sponsored by Purina Pro Plan, the official performance dog food of Ducks Unlimited. Purina Pro Plan, always advancing. Also proudly sponsored by Bird Dog Whiskey and Cocktails. Whether you're winding down with your best friend or celebrating with your favorite crew, Bird Dog brings award-winning flavor to every moment. Enjoy responsibly. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show and visit ducks.org/DU podcast. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of Ducks Unlimited. Until next time, stay tuned to the Ducks.